and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Madison. I am a second year, second grade teacher, and in today's video, I am going to be talking all about classroom and behavior management. All right, guys, I have been putting off this video for a really long time, and I don't know why. It's like I was subconsciously putting off this video, and I think it was just because I was afraid that I was not giving the best advice, or maybe people would judge what I had to say, or other veteran teachers who have been teaching for 20 plus years would watch this and be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's only a second year teacher. And honestly, sometimes I think giving advice as only a second year teacher, I don't feel 100% confident, but I'm like, you know what, I am almost halfway through my second year of teaching, and that's a lot of experience to give my opinion, give my insights. And is my answer to every question like the end all be all way to do things? Absolutely not. But you know what, I'm just going to give advice as best as I can based on my own experience. That's all I can do. That's all anyone can do. And I hope you guys just take it with a grain of salt and you do what you will with the information I give you in today's video. So like I said, I'm a second grade teacher. This is my second year teaching. However, I have had 3 classrooms because I taught for half of a year whenever I graduated from college. I got stuck into a classroom mid-year, took over that classroom after the teacher left, and honestly that was the year where I learned the most about my own classroom management and behavior management, because I had so much trial and error with that classroom. Coming into a classroom mid-year, they treat you like a sub, they treat you like a stranger, they don't respect you. So I had to go into that classroom and really test the waters, and I had to test out every single classroom management strategy that I knew and learned in college, and I had to teach myself some new ones along the way. So I asked you guys some questions on Instagram. My Instagram will be linked right here if you guys are interested in following me over there. I do Q&As over there every single week and always answer a bunch of questions about school and just about life stuff. But you guys asked me a lot of really good questions about classroom management and behavior management. There's no way I'll get to all of these today, so if I don't get to your question, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will try to leave as many answers to comments down below as I can. I'm currently on my lunch period. As you can see, I'm in my classroom right now, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna film this video during my lunch period whenever I'm like, my mind is still in school mode, and I honestly have been dealing with some classroom management issues today, so I'm like, you know what, this is a great time to talk about it. So I haven't practiced, haven't rehearsed, haven't written down any answers. This is just going to be super casual. I'm just going to go through the questions that you guys asked me, answer as many as I can, and I'm just going to be 100% honest and explain my thoughts, my situation. Now, this isn't what, you know, every situation happens to be like, and it may be different than how you choose to handle a situation, and that's okay. Before I start answering any of the questions, I do want to say that this video is sponsored by BetterHelp, and this video, it could not be a better time to talk about BetterHelp and to talk about online therapy. My mental health has been through a lot since I have started teaching, and I think any teacher, anybody in this profession can say that this job can be really, really hard on you mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. And so it's really important that you stay on top of your mental health, stay on top of taking care of yourself, making sure that you are eating enough, drinking enough water, doing things outside of teaching, you know, getting your mind off of teaching, because sometimes it can be very consuming. And so, you know, over the past couple of years, I've really learned to have a line between school and my personal life, and setting that balance, it's a game changer, and it's what has helped my mental health so much, and is what has made me a better teacher in the classroom, because I have that downtime whenever I get home to reflect and to take some time for me to fill my cup up so I can be a better teacher in the long run. So BetterHelp is professional therapy done securely online. I think it is so amazing that therapy has become a more openly talked about subject, and I love that over the past 5-10 years, people have started really taking care of their mental health just as much as they take care of their physical health, because that's just what makes sense, right? So BetterHelp is just a great resource that wants to help people find the professional help that they need. It's not a crisis line, not a self-help helpline. It is professional therapy that is online. And sometimes it can be scary looking for a therapist, and it can be kind of like a daunting process. It can be expensive. It can be really hard to find a therapist that is right for you, and BetterHelp makes all of that more simple and easy. So what they do is they have an online platform where they have hundreds of different therapists, and they make it free to switch therapists. So let's say that you meet with a therapist, you're not loving it, you're not vibing. It's not a huge ordeal to cancel and have to reschedule all these appointments. They make it free and they make it easy to switch therapists and find the one that's right for you. So it's easier, it's less expensive than in-person therapy, and they do offer financial aid if that is a problem for you. They have a broad range of therapists, over 20,000 in their network, and that's therapists that may not be right in your area. So instead of having to travel to go speak to a different therapist that you want to see, you can just do it from the comfort of your home online. If you're not sure where to start, BetterHelp will assess your needs and they will help match you with the right match for you, the right licensed professional therapist for you. You won't have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. You will sit in the comfort of your own home, and you'll get thoughtful, timely responses from therapists online. You can schedule weekly chats, you can schedule video chats, and I think that's so amazing that whenever you're in need, whenever you really need to talk to someone, they're right there. You don't have to drive to go see them. You don't have to wait in a waiting room. You don't have to pay extra money to go see them. You just have them there online waiting for you. As a teacher, I am constantly making sure the mental health of my kids are in check and that they are doing okay and that they're happy and that none of their mental health needs are interfering with their work. But sometimes as teachers, we need to take a step back and make sure our mental health needs aren't interfering with our work. Are we okay? When we wake up in the morning, are we happy? Are we excited to go to work? Maybe this is something you've been thinking about for a really long time. And if so, I think this is your sign. BetterHelp is the best platform I can think of if you have been thinking about going to therapy. And so I will have the link to check out BetterHelp down below in the description box, to visit betterhelp.com/Madison Campbell and join the over 1 million people that are also taking care of their mental health today. If you ever need a chat, please, my DMs are always open. The comment section is always open. I'm constantly checking my DMs and my comments on my videos and trying to reply to as many of you as possible. So if you're ever having a hard day, trust me, I get it. I have hard days all the time. So please leave a comment or a message and I will try to get back to you. But just know you're not alone. Teaching is a hard job. So take care of you first, because you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of 20 plus other children. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the questions. What are your strategies with dealing with students with defiance disorders? So this is huge. A lot of behaviors stem from defiance. Now, the number one thing, and I know we hear it all the time, is to meet the kid where they're at. Now, some students, some kids, they're not born with these behaviors. These things are learned over time. And so a lot of that is because of the environment that they're in at home, outside of the classroom, whatever that may be. And so my first job whenever I have a student who has a defiance disorder, an attitude disorder, whatever it may be, is to try to figure out what is going on in that student's home life and get to know that student, because there's always more to the story. They rarely ever just come in the building deciding to have a bad day. It's always something happened that morning, something happened at school at the end of the day yesterday that is causing them to have anger, resentment, whatever that may be. And so get to know that student, pull them aside, ask them about their home life, ask them what they like to do after school, and usually you can get to know a lot more about that student and start to kind of understand their attitude a little bit more and where that comes from. And though it can be so hard and so frustrating when you're dealing with a student who may just seem like flat out mean, it's important to realize that they're just a child, and wherever these mean behaviors are stemming from, it's coming from a place that is out of their control. So I have to remind myself that, and I have to remind you guys that too, because sometimes it is so easy just to like lash out or just be upset or be so frustrated with the child because of how they're acting, but you have to remember they're just a child. So whenever it comes to a student who's super defiant, I usually just try not to feed into the behaviors, give them a lot of attention. So, you know, that can be really hard. And obviously there's different scenarios. That's why these questions are really hard, because it totally depends. Some students need that extra attention for their behaviors to simmer down, because honestly, any type of defiance is usually just a cry for help. Either a student isn't receiving love, they aren't receiving attention at home, and so they're crying out, asking for those things in more of an unhealthy way. And so it's our job to teach them how to ask for those things in a healthy way. So whenever it comes to a student who's super defiant, who wants negative attention on them at all times, I try to kind of flip the pancake is what we say, and I try to feed into their positive behaviors. And so I am huge on positive reinforcement. You'll probably notice that with my answer to a lot of these questions. If a student is negative and defiant, I won't pay any attention to that behavior. Whenever they are doing a good job, even if it's for 30 seconds, I give that all the attention that I can. I pay that attention, and I let them know that I notice that, and that's what I appreciate, and that's what I want to see. If it doesn't change, talk to their parents, talk to their family, and see what they can do, see if they can help you with that sort of behavior. But my number one advice is just to get to know that kid and build that relationship with them, and see if you can work something out with them one-on-one. What do you do with crying kids during a lesson? So although I teach second grade, you would be surprised at the immaturity level of some of these kids. Now I will say this year is a totally different year because my students haven't ever had a normal school year. The past 2 years have been COVID years, so they're coming in lower, not only academically, but emotionally a little bit lower, mentally, maturity wise, just all a little bit lower. So my kids, I remember the first week, it seemed like I had a bunch of kindergartners, really, just maturity level. Now they've grown a lot, but I still get the occasional crier, the occasional tantrum. This is just how I am. There's the nurturers, there's the coddlers, and then there's me. I refuse to coddle that type of behavior. You know, of course it depends on the situation. Is it an emergency? You know, pay attention to the situation, figure out what's actually going on. But if it's for no reason, I pay no attention to it, and I make sure that they notice that right away. Kids are very resilient. They will notice that and quickly turn their behavior around when they notice, hey, I'm not getting attention for this behavior. Most of the time, again, it stems back to what they're experiencing at home, and they're crying out for attention in a negative way. So they need to be taught how to ask for that attention in a positive way. Crying isn't gonna get it. Screaming, throwing tantrums isn't gonna get it, at least not from me, and they'll learn that quickly. After they've kind of calmed themselves down, I'll pull them to the side and I'll talk to them about how they could have handled that situation better, and if they needed my help, they could have just asked for it in situations like that. But I don't pay any mind to crying, screaming, tantrums, especially in second grade. Kindergarten teachers, I know that's a whole different world, and that is what you guys deal with on the daily. You guys are saints. But once they're 8 years old, that stuff's gotta go. How do you feel about clip charts? Now I know there's this huge stigma around clip charts, and I mean, I don't really get why it's become like this big ordeal. I don't personally use clip charts, mainly because I know that there is such this negative connotation whenever it comes to them. Now, I think it always depends on the classroom. Now, whenever I went into that classroom straight out of college, it was an unusual circumstance, a very high behavior classroom. And so I had some people telling me, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I think a lot of that, it's totally up to whatever is happening in the classroom. It's up to the teacher and what is going to work best for that class. It's really hard to give like a one answer fits all in this situation, because the classroom that I was in when I first started, I mean, it was like every day was physical fights breaking out here, there. It was defiance, attitudes, and worse than you can imagine. So I had a board. I had a board with their names on it up on the board. They get one warning. I would check mark it in front of the whole class, because it's almost like that class needed to be humbled a little bit. Now, not every class is like that. My class last year rarely ever had to give consequences. I especially would not embarrass any students on the board. So I personally am a big believer in do whatever works for you, do whatever works for your class. And I don't like the teacher shaming, where people are shaming other teachers for certain behavior tactics, because I think this job is already so hard. whatever we can do as a teacher to make it easier on us and to make our class a well-running, smooth machine, you got to do it. So I personally don't have huge opinions on behavior charts. I agree there is some, you know, negative aspects of it. If other students see themselves going down while others are going up, it doesn't build that self-esteem. So like I said, I'm big on positive reinforcement. That's how I choose to run my classroom. I want to lift students up and encourage students to do better, not put them down for how they're acting, but do you. How do you manage difficult behaviors with no help when other students are waiting on you? So this is, I mean, just one of the hardest parts about having defiant students, because it's not like it's just you in a room with that student and you're just battling them. You have 15 plus other students in that room waiting on you to either continue a lesson, to give them instructions, whatever it may be. And whenever you're dealing with that one student, that gives 15 plus other students a lot of freedom to do whatever they want. And so that's when it is hard. And so if you don't have help, one, ask for it. I mean, whether you can get an aide, you can get a foster grandparent, if they have anybody in the building that they can spare to help you in your classroom, maybe at certain times of the day that are more hectic, like, hey, can I have an extra friend in here to help me during the last 30 minutes of the day? Just let your admin know that you're struggling with that and you feel like you don't have a lot of help, and they should be able to send someone in to help you. But if not, that's when it's really important to have a routine for that child, especially if it's a child that you know is going to act out at certain times and is going to interrupt certain lessons, and to have a certain behavior plan for that one child. But yeah, I mean, I barely have an answer for that one because that's hard. I mean, when you have a student that is acting up and is totally interrupting your lesson and is interrupting your other students' work and you can't give them attention because you need to be working with other students, that's when I'm at a loss, because I am still dealing with that every single day. So other teachers, come to our rescue. If you have any advice for that question, please leave it down below. What to do when a student begins destroying classroom property? Yikes. So I have never had a student that has destroyed anything in my classroom, but the teacher across the hall from me last year, she had a lot of that. And I mean, in my school at least, the second a student starts doing that, the principal comes and takes them out of the room. And I personally think that's what should happen in every classroom, because if they're physically destroying your classroom, that, you know, that's a physical threat to you and other students around you, whether they're throwing books, chairs, ripping things off the walls, whatever it may be. That student needs to be escorted from the classroom. Otherwise, I recommend that you evacuate the classroom into the hallway, let them do their thing, because I mean, you can't put your hands on the child. All you can do is get your other children to safety and get you guys out of the room and hope that someone comes and takes that kid away from you guys. What's something you were taught in undergrad that you found doesn't work in real world? So I don't know if I can pinpoint a specific thing that doesn't work that I was taught, but I think more than anything, when I got into my first classroom, I realized I wasn't taught enough, and I had to do a lot of research after college on how to manage a classroom. And I feel like in my undergrad classes, I was taught a lot about like lesson planning and stuff like that, but I wasn't taught enough about classroom and behavior management, when I would say that is 70 to 80% part of your day as a teacher. There should be many courses on that in college, because it's really hard. I would say the hardest part of my day. And yeah, when I first had my first classroom out of college, I was mad. I was like, no one prepared me for this. Nobody told me this was even like an option to happen, that I could go in mid-year and have a class that treated me like I was a stranger, a sub, and they didn't even listen to a word I said. So I had to really put my foot down, and I had to learn the hard way, really, how to manage a classroom. Advice for new teachers on how to set behavior rules and managing bad behavior. Now, I really hope a lot of you guys have good classrooms and you don't have to deal with this, but the unfortunate reality is that a lot of teachers do have bad behaviors in their classroom every single year. And what is most important is how you start the year off. So when you come in on that first day, and I've told a lot of people who have messaged me asking for advice on this, you have to set the tone. Now, I don't believe in that rule, don't smile until like the second month of teaching or whatever that like old myth is, but I do believe that you need to come in strong. Like that first day, I know it's supposed to be a fun day and you're getting to know each other, and sure, still to get to know each other activities, but in between each of those activities, it needs to be like boot camp. Like you need to be strongly enforcing rules. Some classes, it might be really easy and there's there's other classes where you will have to drill hard. And I mean, that's at least in my experience. Some of you guys might be like, man, I never had to do that. Like, my classes have always been so well behaved. That's awesome. But if you have any behaviors in the classroom, any defiance, any kids who think that they can just like walk right over you, get away with anything, you need to show them on the first day that they absolutely cannot. And so have a set of rules, and we go over them as a classroom. I make them sign a contract saying they'll follow those rules. And the first time they disobey, disregard those rules, there's a consequence. There can't just be warning after warning after warning. They have to see that you're serious. Otherwise, they will never follow through and they'll just walk all over you. So my biggest advice with that is that first day, go in strong, be strict, or whatever you have to be to know that you mean business, you're the teacher, you're in charge, and they have to follow your rules if they want to stay in your classroom. Have you ever had to call another adult in the room to help you with bad behavior? A couple times. I really have been lucky. I haven't had to call down to the office many times over the last couple years, where like my teacher last year who was across the hall, I know she had to call every single day to the office to get kids escorted from her room. So I feel really lucky that I honestly have not had that issue. Now I had 1 or 2 incidents where I had to call to get students removed from my classroom who were just being disrespectful, either to me or other students, but they were pretty minor situations, nothing too crazy. But yeah, I mean, if a student is disrespecting you, disregarding what you're saying, or being disrespectful to other students, I won't tolerate that. If I have one student who is just calling names or yelling out or saying shut up or cuss words to another student, you're out of my classroom. You're not going to disrespect my students, because I want my students to feel safe, and they need to know that their teacher is going to protect them in that sort of situation and remove the child if they're being a bully or something like that. Now, removing the child from the room isn't the solution to every problem. No. Some problems, maybe other times, maybe pull them out in the hallway, pull them to your back table, ask them just what's going on. Sometimes I just say, hey, come here. What's going on? Are you okay? You know, why are you acting like that? And sometimes they'll just break down and tell you what's going on. Other times it's hard to get a lot out of them. Maybe they need to go just take a deep breath. Sometimes I'll say, do you need to go take a walk? Do you need to go get a drink of water? Do you need to go take a deep breath? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, I really do. Kids need breaks just like adults do. So give them a break. Maybe they'll cool themselves down. If they can't cool themselves down, that's whenever you might need to get some intervention. Chatty groups. How do you stop all the side talk? I got so many questions on this. Constant side chatter. How do you deal with kids who are constantly chatting and negate teacher authority? How do you deal with students who are ignoring your directions? How do you deal with students who are talking over you? How frustrated do you get when your students are disrespectful to you? So guys, I mean, this year has definitely been the hardest with chattiness. For me, the first half year that I taught, it was more defiant behaviors, physical aggression that I dealt with. My first full year of teaching, so the year after that, it was more like my unicorn year, I would say. The whole class, I don't think I had a discipline once. I'm not kidding. All year. Now, we were online for half a year, so that could be why, but they were just all sweethearts, and they're all really quiet and all really well, like, rule followers. This year, and that's what's great and what can be hard, every year is so different and has taught me a lot, and you'll just learn so much as you grow as a teacher. This year I have a very sweet class. I love them to death individually, but together as a class, they are just the chattiest bunch I've ever had. And with chattiness can come a lot of frustration on my part, just because it can be hard to get through lessons. It can be hard to transition us. And so that can be really frustrating when you feel like students aren't listening or they're talking over you. Now, this class, I know they're not doing it to be disrespectful to me. They're not doing it to disregard like my emotions or my authority, because I know they all do respect me. But as a class, they all are so close. They bonded hardcore on the first day, and because of that, they're so comfortable with each other and they just want to talk all day. Sometimes they're close like brothers and sisters. They'll get on each other's nerves, so there's a lot of picking on each other, a lot of small fighting, a lot of tattletaling, and so that's what has been the hardest for me this year. So I get it. If you're in that same position, the chattiness can be real hard. So with my class, I found that incentives work over anything. So we do team points. So each one of my teams, they're just table numbers 1 through 5. They work as a team to earn points throughout the day, whether that's the quietest table gets a point, the fastest table to line up gets a point, whatever that may be. And then super simple. The winning team gets a piece of candy at the end of the day, literally a Jolly Rancher, but they work so hard for it. And then we also have teacher versus student. So teacher versus student, similar thing. They work as a class though to earn points. So, okay, if you guys answer my callback quick and quietly, then you'll get a point. But if they don't answer my callback, or if they're still talking after I do a callback, that's when I get a point. And they're very used to that, and they know how that works very quickly. So all I can say is find what works for your classroom. Some classrooms are really incentive driven, really reward driven, whether that's whole group rewards, individual rewards. Some kids may need more incentives individually and more positive praise individually than a whole class reward, but that's what has been working for me. Every now and then, if I find that they are just not motivated to listen at all, we will come up with a reward that we can work for. So if you get a certain amount of points this week on teacher versus student, then we'll get a popcorn party on Friday, whatever that may be. And my kids are super motivated by that. Like if they know they have a popcorn party to work towards, their voices are off and they are working. And also just have conversations with them. I am huge with just being real with my students. And one day I know they were talking over me just all day and I was just getting so frustrated. And so I just stopped teaching and I just said, guys, we need to talk. And I just was honest with them. I just told them how I felt. I said, I feel really frustrated right now. I feel a little upset. My feelings are kind of hurt because I feel like you're talking over me. And I get down on their level and I'm real with them. I say, you guys know when you're sharing and the rest of the class isn't listening to you, you know how that kind of hurts your heart and it makes you a little frustrated. And they all were immediately like, oh yeah, I know that feeling. And I'm like, well, that's the feeling you're giving me right now when I'm trying to teach and you're not listening to me. And I could tell, I mean, kids are really empathetic little creatures. They have big hearts, big feelings, and so they can empathize with you whenever you're saying your feelings. And so they all really empathize with me. And I told them, I said, you know, it would make me really happy if you would listen to me. And you know, and I gave them reasons why. You know, sometimes teachers just say, be quiet because I said so. But I told them, I said, it's important for you to listen because this. It's important for you guys to have a low voice level in the classroom because this. I explained why it's important to have a low voice level in the hallway so we're not interrupting other classrooms. Why it's important we line up quickly at recess so we can get back inside and get to learning. So I always just explain to them and I give them reasons for everything so that they understand. And so I just get down on their level, and that's the biggest thing I can say is just get down on their level, empathize, sympathize with them, and hopefully they'll understand. A lot of questions about kids bullying, kids threatening each other, kids lying. What do we do about my kids being unkind to each other this year? I have tried everything. That's something I feel like I've noticed more than anything when teaching is that kids can be really mean to each other and really, really unkind. There is a lot of bullying that goes on, and man, I mean, kids are just brutal. And so that can be really eye-opening when you become a teacher and you realize like, wow, these aren't just little innocent angels like people think. And so whether kids are being mean to me or kids are being mean to each other, some days I have to like take a step back and be like, okay, this needs some work. So a lot of my kids, I mean, if I find them being mean or unkind, I pull them aside and I talk to them about it just one-on-one, and I say, hey, I do not like when I see that behavior. And a lot of time my kids are really embarrassed about it, and kids do things without thinking. And so it's really important to remember that they're just kids. They're gonna learn from their actions. Not all kids are mean deep down, but a lot of them, they see other kids being mean and they follow that lead. So all I can say with that is, you know, talk to those students one-on-one and figure out, you know, is there a deeper meaning behind it? Why they're acting so mean? Why they're acting so unkind to other students? And I make sure that if it happens again, like calling mom, calling dad, calling grandma, and you know, making sure they know that's not okay. Sometimes it can be easy to like hear comments and just kind of like let it slide because you have like too much to think about, but I really try hard to address it whenever I hear a kid being mean to another kid, or whether it's like pushing or shoving or constantly having their hands on someone else. I'll pull them aside, and sometimes it's a kid you may not expect to say something mean, and that's whenever I pull them aside and I just talk to them and I say, hey, you know, it's not okay for you to say this because this, you know, I think you need to go apologize. 9 times out of 10, that kid will go apologize to the student, apologize to me, be like, I'm so sorry, like, you know, and they're really embarrassed. But definitely, if it's something that keeps happening, you know, get parents involved, get admin involved, because like I said before, it's so important for you to protect other students and all of your students. And if someone is constantly bullying and being mean, that student needs intervention, that student needs help, so that they can stop. So it's tough out here, guys, and this is not an easy job. It's not a job for the lighthearted, and I truly don't know how I do it every day. Sometimes I come home, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been teaching for over 2 years now. That is wild. And so yeah, just be kind to yourself, be easy on yourself. It's really easy to compare yourself to other teachers, but don't get caught in the comparison trap, because you are not the same as another teacher who's been teaching for 18 plus years. You are just yourself. You bring so much to the table that they don't bring, and vice versa. Everyone is unique and different in their own ways. We need good teachers out here, so we need to stop teacher shaming. You may not agree with what every teacher does in the world. That's okay. Focus on you, focus on your own classroom and what you can handle and what you can manage. Don't put anything else on your plate. Don't worry about what other people are doing, what other people are thinking about, because most people are just worried about themselves in the long run. So I hope this video helped you guys. I hope that you got something from it. I know it was just a big ramble fest, and I know I didn't write any of this down. I was just speaking from the heart and just talking to you as if you're a friend, asking me questions about teaching and behaviors and classroom management. But I really do hope that I helped any of you, especially if you're a new teacher just starting out. But please, if you guys have anything else to add, I know I didn't touch on everything because that would be an hour-long video. Please comment down below any advice that you have for new teachers, any classroom or behavior management advice as well, because I know there's so much more. So please leave it below, and don't forget to check out BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/Madison Campbell. I think it's time we all start taking care of our mental health and just taking care of each other. So I love you guys, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.